Welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs podcast. My name is Greg, and this channel, of course, is dedicated to news and commentary for your Washington Commanders. If you're down with that, please make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, and also make sure you hit that notification bell and make sure that you're notified for every single video that the Maniacs put out so you won't miss any other video releases. And with that said, today's topic: how Josh Harris turned the Washington football franchise around, and in so little time. I mean, think about it. Just a couple of years ago, Josh Harris got a conglomerate of people together, the Harris Group, which included the likes of Magic Johnson, to come up with the money, over $6 billion to purchase the Washington Commanders. Josh Harris has been a lifelong Redskins fan, just much of like how Dan Snyder said that he was a lifelong Redskins fan. And, Josh was able to purchase a franchise that had continued to decay over the last 20 plus years under the leadership, if you can call that loosely, of one Daniel Snyder. And it really is such a stark contrast as to what happens when you have good leadership involved, as opposed to someone who just owns a franchise and making billions upon billions of dollars off of it to support his yacht, his billionaire lifestyle, and turning a franchise into his own little playmate escapade. Okay, probably a word I shouldn't have used because obviously I can't pronounce it. So anyway, I'm such a professional, aren't I? And being all of that, us fans suffered because no coach worth a grain of salt, and no offense to the coaches that did come here, but they either needed that opportunity and Washington was willing to give it to them, or they just, they needed that opportunity to first become a head coach for the first time, or just they wanted to get back in the game, so to speak. I mean, you had some good quality coaches, but for the most part, no coach who really had a plan that was going to be able to work wanted to come here. Players didn't want to come here. I mean, it was not a destination that anybody wanted to say that they were a part of. No matter how much that the old tradition was thrown at them and stuff like that, they were trying to live off of the old glory years that's now been 30 plus years ago, long gone. And they were trying to pitch that to bring these folks in who was going to be the savior of the franchise. Well, it turned out it was too much of a task for anybody. And you had some good quality coaches who probably, given a better opportunity and a better situation, would have been more successful, but they were not, because it was a lose-lose situation. It was not a situation where they were going to be able to be very successful. That's why my hat honestly goes off to guys like Jay Gruden, because Jay, his first time being a head coach, probably had just as much success as anybody else since Joe Gibbs retired the first time. Now, Joe Gibbs 2.0 at least got him to the playoffs twice, but I think Gruden's winning percentage was one of the better ones since that point. So, that my hat's off to him. He was not put in a situation likely to where he really was going to succeed. And because of that, you're never going to see a team that was truly going to compete for a championship. Every now and then they would win a division that wound up being kind of weak, but that was a rarity. Making the playoffs, rarity. Winning a playoff game, rarity. You would never see a team go past being mediocre at best. Fast forward, you're seeing more and more stuff with Daniel Snyder and getting to the point to where really he was bullied out. At the end of the day, honestly, he was bullied out. That being said, am I taking up for him? No, not at all. He really needed to leave. But that was the only way to get him out, to hit him at his pocketbook, to keep bringing up such bad press, and to finally have folks who he looked up to tell him take the money and run. You're not. They're going to continue to a witch hunt. They're going to continue that with you until the day you die. You might as well get out while you can. Go live a good life somewhere else. Get out of the public eye. It's going to be better for you and your family. So in comes Josh Harris, and it just felt like right away, suddenly he's hiring all of the right people around him. People who have been in the NBA and whatnot, have been in successful organizations and know how to win. He brings he surrounds himself around folks like that. That's the first step of knowing that you have someone who is smart in charge, because they know that they can't do it all themselves. And then, of course, you bring in great leadership and guys like Adam Peters. You bring in, positions that you don't even think of, analyst positions, things like this. Anything to get ahead and to get an advantage, you bring in those guys. That was never once thought of when Dan Snyder was here. And you bring in all this, and suddenly you start seeing it was almost immediate, especially once you got your quarterback. You really needed your quarterback. And the Commanders got their quarterback. And then all of a sudden, this team has been transformed. They go from winning 2-3 games to winning 12 and making the conference championship game, all within a short turnaround. And it doesn't just stop there. I mean, that's obviously the biggest, most important part that us fans want to see, but it doesn't just stop there. It goes further. He's making renovations to the existing stadium. He's investing in a structure that is not going to be used in 5 years, because he's doing that to invest in the fans' NFL experience on game day. So he's investing millions of dollars to revamping Northwest Field. And of course, we mentioned a new stadium right away. It only took them, a year or so, year and some change. And they secured the sacred RFK spot to build the next stadium for the Washington Commanders, going back to DC, honestly, where they belong. And he's done so much he's accomplished so much in so little time. Just think if they win the Super Bowl in the next year or two, I mean, my goodness, that would be such a stark contrast between what us fans had to endure under Dan Snyder for the last 25 years compared to an owner who knows what he's doing in only like 2, 3 years. I mean, talking about retribution, ultimate retribution of going through so long of a bad drought and bad times as a franchise to suddenly becoming the cream of the crop and one of the most desired organizations in the NFL almost overnight. Um, so how did Josh do this? Well, I mentioned it before. He surrounded himself by people who are smarter than him, and that's what you do. If you want to improve yourself, if you want to improve your skill level in certain things, you surround yourself by people who are smarter than you in those areas, and you learn from them, and you let them run with what needs to be done, and that's what Josh did. You know, he's not going to be the one to make all the decisions. He wants to put the people in charge, the right people in charge to make those decisions for him, because that's what a good owner does, and that's what he's been doing. And any area whatsoever, like I said, positions that you don't even think about, he thinks about, and he, analyst positions, um, even positions within the front office that maybe have some direct dealings with Adam Peters that you would never thought that, oh, I would never have thought they would need it this position. They have it. So once you start to do that and you get the right people in place, it all starts to work like a one well-oiled machine. Each cog in the system has its specific task that it does well, that it's a master of, and that each person does their one job, or however, maybe not, maybe they have multiple tasks, but their overall job, they do that very well. And they're not trying to do that, not trying to also come over here and do this too. They're all doing their own tasks, and they're doing it very well. And that is how an organization goes from being a laughing stock to the cream of the crop almost overnight. And I don't see Josh really just suddenly being satisfied and stopping there. I think he's always going to look at ways to improve the team. Now, for some of you who are basketball fans, may say, well, he's not really doing that for the 76ers, is he? I don't know. Maybe it was the fact that football was his first love, and maybe the football team was always where he really truly wanted to be. Could be the case. But I'm glad that he is putting so much more effort, or so much effort, into the Commanders. I mean, I do want him to be successful in his other endeavors as well, but I'm not an NBA fan. I'm an NFL fan, and specifically, I'm a fan of the Washington Commanders. So I want them to succeed, and that's my focus, and that's why I'm so happy. But that's how Josh has turned things around. He's hired correctly. He's hired right. He's put those people in place to do jobs that he's not having to step in and do. Quite frankly, jobs that Dan Snyder and maybe one of his cronies thought that they could do on their own and make all the decisions. That's just one thing that I want to leave you with. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Anytime that you have somebody who's very micromanaging, who wants to make all of the decisions, who wants to do it all, because they want that pat on their back, they want to, fatten their wallets, They don't really want to share the wealth as far as having others to be able to work those skills and those positions to really, maximize the efforts across the board to make things a lot simpler. Whenever you have that, you're going to fail. Why? Because one person can't do it all. And one person is not smart enough to make all the decisions. Yes, ultimately, it's up to ownership because, they're the ones who pay the paychecks. But they should never be the ones to make the decision on drafting this player or, getting this player from free agency. That should not be a component of ownership at all. That's why you put guys in place to make those decisions. And then you as owner, you hope that your investment works. I mean, this may be a bad example, but most of us, yeah, when it comes to our investments, yeah, we like to know that we're investing in this or that. But most of us who are not like full-time investors, who that's what our job is, we put money into our retirement, and then we hope that we hope, but we also have this faith that those who are investing our money for us are investing correctly, and then we're the ones who reap the rewards later on, right? And so we're owners of that money, but we're giving it in good faith to hope that someone is building our future. And that's kind of how ownership works in the NFL, and it's how it should work in the NFL. You provide the money, you you try to get the right people in charge of what needs to be happening across the board, and you let them do their job. And then you sit back and hope that you can reap the rewards and that everybody comes out much richer and happier. That's what you want in the long run. Folks, I hope you enjoy this video. If you got something out of it, please give me a like, give me a comment, at least say hi. Let me know that you're alive. With that said, I will see you in the next one. Take care, folks.